All right, good morning, everybody. Morning study time, huh? There we go. Mug. All right. This one. All right, let's go. All right. Let's see. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. There we go. Anybody recognize the film? Up over there on Kick. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for coming in. Anybody recognize the show here? I appreciate that. Welcome aboard. Good morning. Good morning. Let's see. Does anyone recognize the film here? I'm doing a compositional study from. Good morning. The triangles here, these are, it's called harmonic subdivision. And the idea is you can divide a composition into halves and thirds. So you know, like by slicing it this way, you get a half and a half, which I forgot to put the half this way in here. But also when you do the diagonals like this, you go from this corner here to the center, where it crosses this halfway diagonal here is actually the third mark. And in film, they tend to use that third line a lot. And so this helps me kind of see how they're positioning things in the film. So it's a, kind of an asymmetrical form of composition and or dynamic symmetry, kind of like there's a number of different ones, but that's what that's for. Is it shows me where those points are at, which also helps with the accuracy. So if I look at the original composition, I can say, oh, the heads go above the center a little bit, or you know, this is on the left of the center, the right of the center, this is right on the third mark. So like I look at this composition, and like he's basically centered on the third, and this guy's like off to the right of the third. So so that's what those are for. It's called Good morning over there on Twitch. Um, so yeah, that's what that stuff is for. It helps me kind of see that because that tends to be really, really common in film is to use those divisions. It also kind of prevents you from making things too symmetrical. Yeah, it's very handy. You can divide it up further into different ways into fifths and other things. They call it harmonic because it's similar to the length of musical notes, so halves and thirds and eighths and fifths and those kinds of divisions. Using it. Um, there's a lot of painters that have used it over history and illustrators and others. Um, it's not the only way of doing a composition, but it does help with certain things, like creating relationships within images. Like another popular grid is things like the golden rectangle, right? So you have like the spiraling square. So it's helpful. Let's see. And of course, why use the brown paper? Well, I like it because you can add white to it. Ah, got some black on. Ah. Just in a wet spot up there, apparently. I have an intimidating presence, huh? And I'm terrifying, I'm sure. Hopefully I'm not that scary. Yeesh. Let's see. Yeah, I know. I said, well, it's first thing in the morning. I'm looking down at my paper and it's dark. Well, the angle is dark where we're looking at because it's light behind me. So, otherwise, it's hard for me to see what I'm working on, right? I have like light shining in my face. Let's see there. That's right. It's very dramatic over here. Ah. All right, there's one. Let's move to the next one, huh? Let's see. Let's see. That's pretty good, actually. I'll go with that one. Nice little discussion here. Does anyone recognize the show yet here? What's Bramble? Oh, that's a multi-stream, and so when I turn it on, like it just leaves on the old title. But Bramble's my little project. I've been working on for a while. It's a concept project that I might do a comic book with. I did a few pages of it recently that you can see on my Instagram. Some of the time lapses. Let's see, should I put that? That halfway point there. So that's what that's about. But basically, it's humanity has settled on this planet that looks like a giant tangle of plants. It's called Bramble. And there's a longer kind of narrative there, but basically, it looks like it's uninhabited. But there's evidence of a former civilization that was once there. Now they appear to be gone. You know, there's no biological remains, but there are some like architecture or artifacts and things like that. But there's no like I don't know anything about them. There's just nothing about them that's there, and over there. Oh, great many artists. Too many. Uh, Across all kinds of different areas, so it's hard to. So. Um, Let's see, that goes up higher. And that should go higher. Well, there's different things, right? So, for example, the sketches is how you start it. That's how we start a drawing, and these are done very quickly too. So, and it's a different kind of paper. So it's the intent here is a little bit different than the more kind of finished drawings. We're looking at composition and layout and interactions between things. So, and of course, brown paper. over higher. Yeah, so this is how I just like to start my morning is with some kind of study project. Um, Well, I'm wearing a hood too, partially just because of the fact that my hair is a mess. So I haven't gotten cleaned up yet. It's like I do this before I do anything else during the day. So, um, what am I doing? I'm doing my morning study. They're settlers, so neither, I guess. I mean, they might have some soldiers. They're not really invading. Humans found a civilization. Well, not civilization. They found a planet that they can inhabit. So a place where humans could live, and they, cross the cosmos. Takes them a long. The idea with this story too is it's not like Star Trek or Star Wars where they can go really fast across space. Like they took a generational starship group out there, so they spent thousands of years, maybe hundreds of years, trying to get there, and so they're long disconnected from Earth, and so they. So they just kind of settled there, and when they arrived, they didn't know that there would be like evidence of an alien civilization. They said, "Oh, look, it's inhabitable. Let's go there." And um, my long-term goals. Well, I mean, I'm I've got this Scrabble project I'm working on. I do want to send out a pitch project or put together a pitch for it, whether I use it as a crowdfunder or submit it to publishers. Is one thing or the other. Um, so that's the long term goal with there. Um, I've published work, but my background is working professionally. My background is working with video games. So I've worked on a number of those. Some of those, have come to life. Others have not. Um, I worked on the Toy Story 3 video game a long time ago. Um, um, I've worked on a Riot project, the Riot Games League of Legends project a long time ago that never came to life. Um, um, so that's kind of more of my background. So it's not so much like I've published in the sense of my individual work. Um, I know some of my concepts for the Toy Story game got used in the advertising. I did work on a large mural project for a regional gas station in the West a long time ago, and that's, I think, still in gas stations out there. I know they've stopped using it for newer ones; they're using photographs now. But so yeah, but yeah, I was working. It was a game company I was working. It's called Avalanche Studios. They were bought by Disney after while I was there, they were with Disney. But I also worked with them before they were part of Disney. Disney got rid of all of their game studios a few years ago, and so they were picked up by Warner Brothers. And I haven't worked with them in forever, so forever and ever ago, 15 years or whatever. But they're they did the recent Harry Potter game that was pretty popular, Hogwarts game. Um, so I have friends that worked on that, people I used to know or work with, worked on that. Insomniac. So, um, but yeah, that was a company I worked at for a while. So I had a Disney email address for a little while. That was before I went to grad school. It was kind of the summer before. So I had worked at this illustration studio or creative studio. That's where I did the mural project, among others. But that was the big thing I did there. A lot of it was really boring. I chose to work there because it gave me free time to study with a painter, some painters locally. So, um, but and then like my most recent projects. I mean, I've done worked with a metaverse type project. They were building like this music metaverse thing. It never came to. I didn't think it would get very far, so I did some concepts for it. But to me, just the way it was set up, it just seemed like a lot of work to actually get involved with it in terms of the users. Um, but so, and it got bought by Board Apes or something a long time ago. But paid all right. Worked with a Netflix company out of India, a show called Tuna. Designed some planets for them. Um, I appreciate that. Oh, I don't know. Well, it's not a fountain pen, first of all. It's a calligraphy nib on there, but there's nothing wrong with using fountain pens. People use a lot of stuff. I like it because you can get these like sharp, straightish lines. This is what I like about it. But a lot of people have used fountain pens over the years, and it's not like it's that out of the ordinary, I think. Let's see. Let's get some light on there. Yeah, I mean, there's you see people draw with all kinds of tools for inking. So, like I've got some pretty standard tools. I've got the Hunt 102 nib, which is a really common one for using with inking. But there's just mark making. You go look at someone like Bill Sienkiewicz, and he's using all kinds of stuff, or Sam Keith, in terms of comic book artists. But even if you look at like regular ones, like they'll use all kinds of things to ink with. There are certain things that are fairly standard, like so the Hunt 102, or some people like to use microns or similar technical pens or markers in that case, I guess. Yeah. So again, there's still a lot of tools you can use. So it's not. You can ink with a stick if you want. Or, like I've got these Kolinsky Sable brushes that are pretty common too. Um, but you can use other things, other than that too. Put the boundaries on here. Like I like to use these. These are kind of an old school pen. I learned the power of cleaning them out the other day, last week I guess. Something's got clogged up and I ordered a little cleanup kit, and it's like, oh, now I kind of know what the difference is, because I wasn't trained on these. When I was in school. It was kind of the beginning of the transition to doing mostly digital work, which I kind of regret to a certain degree. I mean, most of my professors, we did traditional work in the classroom and that, but I kind of wish it were more technically based. How to do X, how to do Y, rather than kind of more generally based that it was. Just because I think there's a lot that can be done with that. But what I like about these ones, these rapidographs, is they use real ink. So it's not marker ink, which is like a weird chemical concoction. This is just it's like carbon and water and whatever binder is in there, like Amerivic or whatever they use as a binder. So let's see, today is the 2nd. And the show, in case you haven't picked up on it, this is True Detective that I'm looking at today. I'm grabbing kind of cinematic screenshots off of Pinterest. So I've got a mural of the Yellow King, right? What kind of rations? Well, they brought rations with them. One of the problems they're running into on the planet, though, is there's just not a lot of stuff that they can actually eat. It's different. Biology just doesn't work well for them. And so the story I'm telling is kind of a point where they're kind of getting close to starvation. Maybe they can cultivate algae, but they're running out of like the original supplies they came with. Maybe they can eat some of the plants a little bit, but it's like it's not really that good for them. And so the story I put together that I've roughed out, actually I can grab it over here. Let's see, there it is. So I went through and I plotted out. This is what I've been doing the last few days. I haven't actually been doing as much drawing. I will be doing a bunch of drawing probably today and tomorrow. But let's see, I think this is, yes, the full arc right here. But basically, they're at the colony. These are just really loose sketches in here, and then these are story beats on the left that I've got here. But basically, they're a colony. They're in a desperate situation. This guy who, when they arrived, not all of the colony ships kind of landed in the same spot. Some of them disappeared or crashed. There was something that happened when they arrived that forced them to land right away in an emergency situation. And this story is set about 80 years after that. So they're running out of supplies. This guy right here, he's the last one to have recovered anything from a ship. And it's been 20 years since they saw the last one. So he's getting older, and he hasn't had a chance to do anything like that in a long time. He gets called on by the community leaders to go out to this location, and he takes this kind of glider ship that I've designed in 3D out there, where he has to leave his wife behind and head out. And he's going out. He's going to locate this beacon. I don't want to go too much into the details, but anyway, he goes to the other ship and he finds their supplies, and he runs into this kind of strange situation where survivors of that crash are interacting with the remaining kind of biology or the technology of that planet, and what happens after that. And then I went through and plotted out kind of 12 issues using this pattern here. I'm using what's called the Dan Harlan. Dan Harmon story circle. It's a way of kind of organizing the story. So I've got all these notes here. And then this first 3 issues I got more thoroughly figured out. And then here's number 4, and I'm just really just putting in like the log line at the tops for these stories. And I did some test pages recently. It's just like showing him landing. Originally, I just kind of did this as a way of like a concept project, just showing how the equipment he's using is functioning. But I'm going to go through and do all of these stories. They even made these special, I don't know how special they are, but I made these thumbnail layouts here for myself. So, that's kind of what I'm working on. I'd like to put it together as a pitch project. And anyway, that's my morning study for the morning. I got to move on to other things to do today. So appreciate everybody that came in, and we'll talk to everybody later.